Don't forget about love and purpose. Service is the mission, baby. Listen with love, listen with love, listen with love. Listen up, listen up. Talk to your kids, ask them what's up. And listen up, we listen up, we listen up with love. Listen with love, listen with love, listen with love. Kick it with your kids, remember you were one. And listen up with love.
Hello, I'm Cindy Arenberg-Seltzer, President and CEO of the Children's Services Council of Broward County. Welcome to another episode of Future First, Focus on Broward's Children. Some things are self-evident once we arrive there, but sadly, it often takes a long time to arrive there, such as listening and valuing the voices of those we want to help. In the child welfare system, for example, the lived experience of those who the system is intended to support hasn't always been held in high regard. Procuring, designing, and implementing programs all too often is done by professionals who may have the best of intentions, but they may lack the ability to see the unintended consequences that may be obvious to those with actual lived experience. For many years now, the CSC and our partners have understood the importance of co-creating systems with those whose lives are affected by the programs we fund. One such system is the Youth System Organizers of Broward, or YSO, an alliance of former child welfare youth and existing system professionals working together to improve service quality and program accountability within Broward County's child welfare system. With us today to talk about their experience with YSO and how it's impacting the system and their lives are youth system organizers Akoya Johnson, Yasmin Bahamundi, and Tiffany Sanka, and system professional Walter Hahnemann of Legal Aid Services of Broward County. Later, we'll hear from Christine Frederick, the CEO of the Flight Center, the hub of all support services for youth transitioning to become successful adults. But first, let's hear from Shanika Ramos, a YSO member who has been part of this work from the very beginning and who we spoke with not too long ago.
So YLab started in about the summer of 2019. I was informed by a staff member at Flight about a great opportunity with the CSC to be able to be involved with system change, and I decided to take them up on the offer. We went through a 2-day racial equity training as well as a 3-day CPAR training, and from that training we were able to realize that we needed to be split off into 2 groups. One group with youth who had lived experience in the child welfare system, and the other with parents who had their youth removed from their homes. And thus YLAP was born. And so with YLAP, what we did was we came together collectively, system professionals and youth alike, to co-research 8 key issues that we were seeing and facing in the child welfare system. And with those 8 key system issues, we did 3 focus groups, 2 with youth and 1 with system professionals as well, to be able to get a overall understanding and observation of what other people were witnessing and dealing with as well. Not only what didn't work, but also what was working in the child welfare system. And from all of that research, we really realized that we needed to have a long-standing type of project put in place to make sure that we were always engaging with youth, conducting the research that was necessary to be able to create the system change, and thus YSO was born. So in the beginning, I was very interested, but also a little wary, just because growing up in the child welfare system, I've dealt with a lot of difficulties with system professionals just not really paying attention to what youth voice is. But further along with the years that passed by and all of the collaboration that we've done, it's been such an eye-opening experience to see that system professionals are seeing the same difficulties that youth are facing, and that there is a willingness to have change and to work together to be able to make the system a better place for youth and system professionals alike.
I remember so well when Shanika came to my office to interview me as they were going through their research project. Mm-hmm. And Walter, I know you were there from the very beginning as a committed system professional. Tell us what that was like to actually sit and with the young people as equals in this process.
It was transformational. I think we just heard Shanika say that when she experienced living in the child welfare system, that people didn't pay attention to what she said as a youth in the system. And for me, that was the first time to really sit down and say, okay, it's incumbent upon me as a system professional now to not just listen, but to pay attention. And I think you also said earlier on in your introduction, to listen and value. And that was the beginning of saying, oh, it's more than just listening and more than just valuing, but engaging in it. What am I going to do with this information? So that first meeting with Shanika was an opportunity to say, if we really want to transform the system, we have to listen, we have to pay attention, and then do something with that information.
And we're going to use this term a lot, TIL, transitioning youth. What does that mean?
Well, that's a great question. When youth are in care, and we call that in care, so in foster care or in the child welfare system, they are youth, and they go to high school and they do what other youth do. But as we start to get ready to, those youth
And they age out, right?
Age out or graduate from foster care, we realize they need more support. They need help with educational planning, how to navigate the financial aid system, how to navigate college application systems, job supports, job coaching, how to exercise employability skills, housing. The young adults are now going into a situation in life where they're going to be housing for themselves and engaging, negotiating landlord-tenant contracts, leases. So that's what transitioning is. The process of helping a young person become a successful young adult, an independent young adult.
Because if they've been in the child welfare system, I think something that a lot of people don't realize, and I didn't know this before we got involved almost 20 years ago now, 16 years ago, you kind of thought if someone was in foster care that their foster family was a family, but not necessarily. And so they were then, at that time, at 18, good luck, see you, have a nice life. And as a county, as the leaders in our county, we said, that's not okay. We have to do something different and really create a system of care for those children who are aging out or leaving the foster care system for whatever reason. And I'm so proud that we started listening to you. And Tiffany, I want to turn to you as one of the youth who've been involved. Why do you think it's so important to be involved in this youth system organizing?
So for me, collaborating with the youth really, again, hones in on the fact that we are not just listening, but actually doing something with the listening that we're doing, right? And we're valuing the fact that we are leaders, right? So to me, the benefits is the cross-learning as we work together with system professionals and youth. And it also helps us, build more relationships with youth and create more opportunities for youth to become leaders. And we could change the narrative, right, guys? We could change the narrative. We could destigmatize how we view youth that are impacted by the system and start looking at us as leaders, right?
That's such a great point. You all did nothing wrong to wind up in the child welfare system. And the potential that I've seen unlocked has been extraordinary. And I'd like you to speak to that a little bit, Yasmin. What has it meant to you to be given the opportunity to have a voice in the system?
Honestly, it's incredible because I just remember back then it was so difficult to even come out having youth groups, or even I think system professionals taking us very serious. I think now in our time, it's very impactful to have this voice or a platform to be able to speak for youth who feel like they don't really have a voice to just speak to system professionals or even be a part of important groups, such as we're on the Life Committee board, we're on CFLA, we're on many boards. So it's very cool that we're able to basically just speak how we feel and how youth feel, you know, due to like our surveys that we have been completing through system professionals and our youth.
I think one of the things that we hope, being in the child welfare system can be really disempowering. You were yanked away from your families. You've been told what to do, where to go, how things are going to run. And one of the benefits I hope that you're experiencing is you're getting some of your power back, realizing that you're not just a victim, but you can also make change. And Okoye, I want to come to you with that about how do you see the youth system organizers being able to impact the system? And what kinds of changes are you seeking?
Great question. Well, YSO not only advocates and supports for youth voice, but also acts as an ear for system professionals, which gives them the opportunity to know what works for youth and what doesn't. So with our experience, we can relate and connect with youth on a level that many professionals can't. So one change I would like to see is for the process to actually be explained to a child that is removed from their home. Because growing up, when I got removed the first time, I felt like I was just being dumped at group homes and nobody was telling me anything about my life. So I was just sitting on court meetings and they would pretend that I wasn't there. So they'll be discussing my life without any input from me, and I found that very embarrassing and degrading. So it wasn't until I actually aged out that I started researching and observing what I actually experienced, because at the time I didn't know what that was.
That's great. And Walter, I mean, at Legal Aid, with some of the work you're doing, funded by the Children's Services Council, if I may add, you are now advocating on behalf of that youth voice as their legal representative. Can you speak to that a bit?
As a legal representative, we advocate for the express position, or what the youth voice, what the youth is directing that they want. In a deeper level with YSO, I think the important thing is that myself and my colleagues who are system professionals in the child welfare system have to come to terms to accept that we are not the only system experts. So the expertise is shared with people who are lived experienced, who are going through the foster care system, who have experienced the foster care system. And you know, we use words like empowerment. We're going to empower the youth to go on. But to give that meaning, you have to really commit to share power. And if we want equity in our systems, equity which fosters growth, which will lead to thriving, then we need to transform the way we do business. Our system professionals, we need to say, okay, we may have professional expertise, but we are not the exclusive owners of expertise in child welfare and what it means to go through that system. So that's what I've experienced. It's groundbreaking. It really is.
And I wonder if you could talk a little bit, any of you, about, I think you're so brave. I have been in many meetings with you where you have been willing to share your vulnerability. That adds a lot of power to the suggestions that you're making. And what do you think what has inspired you or given you that strength to be so vulnerable in places that could be pretty intimidating? Tiffany, you're out there all the time talking, both for parents and for youth. What's given you that strength, do you think?
So, you know, from my own experience, what lit up the fire was when I was getting silenced and oppressed by the system. So that's really what kind of sparks up the fire and the passion within what I do, and like why I continue to advocate for, you know, community members, which includes youth, parents, you know, everybody in the community, is because we need to hear, you know, from our expertise and the value that we bring to the table. You know, that is what makes me continue to do the work, right? Because if we don't speak up, then we don't know, right? So like when Walter was talking, you know, it's super true that we have to be ready to really share the power and really do the mirror work when we're doing the like co-creating with youth, especially because, you know, we're experts in our lives and we know what we want to be changed. And sometimes it's hard to like see somebody else's experience when you don't experience. So that's why we bring a different level of approach, a different level of feeling to the work.
And what are some of the things that you think need to be changed? What have you experienced that you are really passionate about changing? Yasmin?
Oh. I've been in the system for a very long time, like since I was probably like 4 or 5 years old. So I've seen different things in the system like over time change, but there's been many things that haven't changed that need to be changed. And I think, you know, that's basically one of the reasons I joined, just because a lot of the time, you just, as a youth, you feel shut down a lot or like no one hears you. So this group, I feel like, gives you that, I feel like, drive to find out new information that's going on, like specifically in these group homes or in these facilities, that things that shouldn't be happening or things that should happen. So I have something in my eye. So it's, for me, it's just, it's hard to see some of the things that are still happening in the system.
Can you elaborate on any of those?
Just like kids being misdiagnosed and they have to go through that without a good support, which is hard.
Yasmin, it's perfectly fine for you to be emotional. As I said, I appreciate the fact that you all have been willing to be vulnerable, because that's the way we learn. And your bravery, all of you, is amazing. McCoy, I want to turn to you and bring you back into the conversation about why you got involved in the youth system organizing.
I actually got involved through Yasmin. We were talking on the phone, and she started telling me about the opportunity. And I was like, maybe I should try to, you know, join something like that, because I believe like knowing how to advocate for yourself, especially as a youth in the system, is really critical to your well-being transitioning out of the system. I never knew how to advocate until after I aged out. I just didn't know how to communicate effectively. So I just wanted to get to the root cause of why there's so much problems in the system and what can we do to change them. So I have a voice, and like being silenced would hinder other people's voices.
You know, really great point, because you all are sharing your lived experience, but it's not just your lived experience. You are actually the connection point to other youth who are much more willing to open up to you than they would be to me. Though I would care, they know that you understand them in ways perhaps they don't trust that I do. And that has changed the approach of the system professionals in general. Walter, you've called it transformational.
It is transformational. I think one thing I've learned from YSO and interacting with my colleagues at YSO is, as system professionals, we need to shift away from looking at the negatives and looking at the positives and the strengths, and really engaging with and fostering the strengths and the positives and the wonderful opportunities that we're blessed to work with. As system professionals, I'm blessed. I'm so honored and privileged to be able to work with such great people.
So, Tiffany, as a participant, as a youth voice, you are now being treated very differently than you were before. With, I hope, and correct me if I'm wrong, but what I'm hearing from Walter, more respect, looking at the positives that you bring to the table. So what does that mean to you, and how has that changed the way you interact?
So it means a lot to me, because somebody that got impacted by the system, respect and sharing power was never a thing for me. So having the ability to be on the other side and to see and to feel the interaction with system professionals that care and that are willing to work on themselves, and us as a collective, changed my mindset and some of my biases I've had on system professionals, because I didn't know the other side. So I didn't know how much work and all those things go into it. So it gave me a chance to see the different perspectives of folks like in your seat, in Walter's seat. And, it changed, because now I'm able to see myself not just a community member trying to advocate, but as a leader, right? And as somebody that's going with the movement and advocating for this change that we all want to see.
It's been amazing. It's truly heartwarming and wonderful to see you all blossom into the leaders that you are now, and I know you will be even more so in the future. But before we close, I want to hear from Christine Frederick, the CEO of the Flight Center, on how the YSO plays into her organization's vision of the child welfare system.
So first of all, Flight Center, it's important that we incorporate youth voice and lived experience in everything that we do. So from the onset, we've had a program called You Matter, which is a program that really gives voice to young people and them giving each other peer support, as well as informing us of programs and opportunities and things that they would like to have, at the center. So we've really incorporated youth voice from the beginning. The youth system organizer is perfect because there should be youth voice involved in everything systematic that is regarding the youth, right? They know what they want, they know what's working for them, they know what's not working. At Flight Center, my philosophy as CEO is that we don't want to be doing something that's not working, right? So if it's not working, we don't want to do it. We don't want to waste our time doing it. We don't want to waste governmental or funding dollars doing it. We want to do something that's going to really resonate with our young people and have an impact on them. So for us, this fits right along with our mission of really having them incorporate what their ideas are for their life. The youth systems organizers really fit into the advocacy role here for Flight Center and for the system at large, because again, they should be informing system professionals, the system as a whole, about what it is that's going to make the greatest impact on them, what are areas of the system that need to be improved upon based on their experiences. And so their voice should really have a direct infusion, if you will, into what we're advocating for as an organization, what we're working on legislatively. There's a lot of things that I think adults around them, well-intended adults say, this is a great idea, this is brilliant, we should be doing this. And sometimes you ask the young person and they're saying, actually that didn't work because it created this other barrier that maybe none of us thought about. And there's sometimes barriers that they're experiencing that none of us have ever even fathomed would be an issue for them. And that's how a lot of legislative changes have been made, for our young people, but only because we've given them the platform to be able to speak and to say, hey, my voice matters. This is what has happened in my life. This is what these decisions had this kind of outcome or this kind of delayed reaction in my life and impact. And so we're able to go back and maybe correct what some well-intended legislation might have been or well-intended policies might have been, but that didn't really work out for our young people. So it should be a direct cause and effect, if you will, right? They're telling us what's working, and that we're able to go back and say, okay, our youth who have actually lived through this, not people sitting around a table making policy, but our young people who have lived through this are saying that this is not working or this is working, but we need to tweak it in this way. And so to me, it's the most important part of advocacy and of doing legislative work is having youth with lived experience inform system professionals.
I know it's a cliche to say that children and youth are our future, but it's true. And whether those youth are growing up in the foster care system or in an intact family, it's important that we listen to them and recognize the value that they offer. And especially if the youth are growing up in the foster care system, it's important that the youth and the professionals participate in the development of the system. If you are a TIL youth interested in getting involved with YSO, please contact YSO Broward at flight, F-L-I-T-E, center.org. I want to thank Akoya Johnson, Yasmin Bahamundi, Tiffany Zonka, and Walter Hahnemann, as well as Shanika Ramos and Christine Frederick, for helping us understand how the YSO functions and its very real impact in making the child welfare system more effective for those who are affected by it. I've been your host, Cindy Aaron-Burke-Seltzer. For this or any other episode of Future First Focus on Broward's Children, go to our website, cscbroward.org, where you can access our YouTube channel, follow us on social media, and remember to join us next time on Future First Focus on Broward's Children.
Broward County. CSC and Mr. Alexander Starr. Service is the mission, baby. Listen with love, listen with love, listen with love. Talk to your kid, ask him what's up, and listen up with love. Listen with love, listen with love, listen with love. Kick it with your kid, remember you were one, and listen up with love. One thing I know that I'm a big kid inside.